Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this podcast. Now, let's get to the show. And as always, Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff and the clock has started.
What is up, everybody? This is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazers. This is episode 27. I'm coming at you here with a weird little situation. My computer's having some technical difficulties, so I'm coming at you through my cell phone. So hopefully the audio doesn't sound too terrible. But with that being said, we are joined here by Mike, and we have a special guest. It is Pierce. We've actually done a podcast with him. He was the former Blazer employee that used to work for the Blazers. How are you doing, Pierce?
I'm doing well, Alex. It's great to be back, and with the Blazers' recent struggles, what a time to be back. I think when I first came on the show, we were very optimistic on the season,
Right?
and we certainly things have changed since then. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So Fawad could not be here tonight, so Pierce is taking over for Fawad. Mike, how are you doing?
Very good. Good stretch of wins. Dame is finally playing, so we're good.
Yeah, Dame is finally playing. So that leads us to our first little talking point here. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Dame. Let's go with Mike since we haven't heard from you in a while, Mike. How do you feel these last couple games Dame has played?
You said it right the first time. Last couple of games. Yeah, I felt like it was very very refreshing to see. It's kind of like we didn't have Dame for the start of the season, and we just took that last game at Denver, that Dame, and we just put him in this time presence. Yeah, just those 43 points were really like it was wholesome to say the least. I've been missing a lot of Dame. We clearly need him to win games. Like, it's not even a question. Last year's playoffs was proof to that. And yeah, if he drops 43, we gotta win a game, and we did. And it wasn't against a very easy team. They're record wise, they're better than us. But yeah, very important for them to gain some momentum. It's looking like he's looking back to his older self, even though his last game was not as good, but it was still like the Dame we want. We want him averaging 30 or more, even if possible, because we know he can average more. We have seen him do, like, in the end of that 2019-2020 season, where he was like on that stretch where he was scoring 40, 50 every game. And we need that stretch if you want to really make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. We needed every single point of that 43 points against the Hornets because they started to come back on us, and without that 3 points, it might have been ugly. Before I swing it to Pierce, I just want to also say I'm currently watching the Vikings game because I am a Vikings fan. So if you hear me give a little cheer, that's what I'm watching. So don't yell at me. But Pierce, anyways, Lillard, how do you feel these last couple games he's been doing?
It's kind of what Mike was alluding to. It's just that I think that was probably the first time I've had joy watching Dame this season. It could have come at a better time during the holiday break where you kind of turn on the TV and see Dame just shoot the lights out against the Hornets, and then obviously not impressive shooting wise with Memphis, but I really felt like he put his impact in the game there, getting to the free throw line, really not shying away from the moment. a typical leader does in the likes of Dame. So, over the course of since he's gone back, heavy minutes, with Phoenix, I think he played, 40 plus during the OT games. Struggled against Memphis a little bit when we were at home with it. But, I think that Charlotte game kind of illustrated the point. Like he's looking a lot better than earlier this season. And I think that kind of has to do with, what we're going to talk about later down the road with, with CJ being out, and Norm moving back into his natural position. It kind of opens things up for Dame as well, as far as, the offensive set. So we'll get into that a little bit, but as far as the Dame time we're looking at, it's just good to see buckets go for him.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, that game against the Hornets, that's the first time I felt like that was the Dame that we're all used to seeing. And then the next game in Memphis, I was, a little worried, like maybe he kind of pulls back a little bit. And even though it wasn't as good of a shooting night as the one against the Hornets, he still played very well for us. And it's great to see, and I hope we continue to see it, and I hope it continues, because I can only imagine with how frustrated we were, and how, upset that we were that Dame wasn't doing well. I can guarantee you Lillard was 10 times as frustrated as we were. So I'm glad for him. I know he's feeling better about himself after those last couple games, and both of them were wins, and one of them was on the road. So that was our second road win of the season against Memphis. So that was a good win.
Yeah. And, I think either it was Quick or another Blazer beat writer kind of alluded to writing down, like, Dame really vocally telling the team, like, we're going through this struggle right now together, but we'll get out of it. We're going to dig out. I think that Memphis game was a really hopefully a starting point of, gain some road wins coming up here. Fortunately for us, our road situation is probably looking pretty good for the next couple of road games, with New Orleans coming up, with the Lakers without AD. And then starting in January, we have a couple games against Denver, Washington, Orlando, even Miami. We're going to be very fortunate to miss a lot of key players from those teams during our stretch. So, let's just hope for the best here, right?
Right. I mean, with as bad as we've been, these are definitely winnable games on the road, especially with how bad we've been on the road. These are winnable games. So with that being said, you mentioned it a little bit. With CJ being out with his injury, we've seen Norman Powell get a run at the 2 guard position for most of the game. And like most of us, most Blazer fans, most NBA fans, that is his natural position. That's where he needs to be to really excel. And these last couple games that he's got to do that, to me, he's excelling. And I think it was last night, they combined for 60 points total, which is usually what we see with Dame and CJ. So that right there tells us that we don't necessarily need CJ. We can still do the same things with Norm, but with better defense. Mike, how do you feel Norm's done as the 2 guard for us?
I don't think there's even a question here. If there's a question here, is who should we trade CJ for? Norman has been amazing at it too, as we expected. He was a great shooting guard in Toronto. He kind of vanished a little bit when he got here, but yeah, he was playing a position that he is clearly he's already a little bit undersized for a shooting guard, considering the league nowadays. But if you put him at his 3, you're gonna really struggle, and that's what he did. He struggled on defense. He struggled to get shots over the defenders, and that becomes tough for him. Last couple of games very good. The last game was very, very good.
Insane.
I didn't see him miss a shot, but I looked away too many times. Yeah, absolutely amazing by Norman. And I feel like it's dumb to say this, but this would be the easiest trade of all time, because don't get me wrong, I love CJ. He's one of my favorite Blazers ever. I love his floater game. I try to mimic it playing in the park. But we could literally trade CJ for a second and become better. Because we are just not running the correct lineup. Because if we have those three, we feel forced to play all three
Yep.
at in the starting lineup. And as I said, if we could trade CJ for a second, and we would still be better because we would play with a real small forward. But yeah, saying that, I want a real trade for CJ, and I hope it's a good package. But anyways, it's looking good for us because we know we can count on Norm.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, Norm was 5 of 8 and 10 of 16 overall. So 5 of 8 from three. He was hitting some big shots when we needed them, and it's wonderful to see just consistent shooting, and that's pretty much what he's done all season. How about you,
Yeah.
Pierce? How you feel Norman Powell's been?
Well, like, not to make this the normal power, but like he's been our most consistent player, right next to Nas in terms of
Without a doubt.
energy. You know what he brings to the court is that blue collar mentality, and it's just a different look what CJ provides. I think it's really tough to what CJ is going through with the collapsed lung, and with the mounting pressures of trades. I mean, he clearly sees those coming in, but with Powell, it's it's a couple of things. Obviously, he gets the free throw line a lot better than CJ. I think he's also a lot better defender than CJ. He's not probably as good as a shot creator as CJ is, but with
Yeah,
that shot creating comes with what I call shooting turnovers, and we don't get that with Norm. Unlike CJ, when CJ is really hot, it's one of the best shows in town.
yep,
It's the ball dribbling, it's the shot creation, but when it's not going down, and that's been kind of the theme of this season, it's kind of putting shots up, hopefully one goes down so you can kind of feel it, and it just hasn't been working. With Norm, it's his bad nights are kind of when the guards kind of take over too much. You see the Dame
exactly.
shooting 4 for 18 nights, and CJ also combining with a 5 for 19, and Norm only gets 9 shots. But it's, if you look up and down the scoreboard throughout the last couple games, you kind of see Norm usually puts up 8 for 17, and he's usually 3 for 7 from three, and then usually puts up 5 free throws. And you're looking at like, oh, he's putting up good games. And even last night, he had a lot of turnovers last night, but you kind of didn't care because you knew he was going to be aggressive. He got to the free throw line, and he puts up really good defense on the other end. So, kind of what Mike is saying. This is his natural position. Yes, he's undersized. Another undersized too that we're not unfamiliar with CJ being there as well. But
Right.
he just brings that length on defense and I think length obviously helps a lot, but just effort,
No,
which goes a long
100%.
ways too. So yeah, really happy for Norm during this stretch. And like I said, I know Mike is kind of thirsty for a CJ trade, but I do my fair share of trade machine, NBA 2K trades out there, and it's a really tough market for CJ right now. I don't expect a CJ trade in the coming weeks, hopefully before trade deadline, but it's a really hard market for CJ right now.
Yeah, and it's something we've talked about multiple times. It's not necessarily just trading CJ. We could trade CJ at any point if we want to. It's getting the right value for CJ. Just trading him to trade him because everybody's frustrated, or it's like this isn't working, so we just need to trade him. Yeah, it's easy to say that, but you need to get value for that trade. So to me, I agree. I do see a trade coming eventually. It might not be next week, 3 weeks from now. It might be closer to the trade deadline. But honestly, it's a good problem to have. Too many good players on your team. You got to figure out which one to get rid of. But Pierce, you also brought up something else I wanted to just kind of touch on quickly and highlight and give some appreciation for. Nasir Little, along with Norman Powell, has been one of the most consistent players for us. His energy he brings both offensively and defensively, on offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. Those are the type of players that Portland loves. We love players that come out there and just bust their ass. And seeing him come out there and do it, it brings so much energy. So Mike, how How do you feel watching? Because I know we talked about him at the beginning of the year, how excited we were for him. Now that we're getting to see him play, how does that make you feel?
It's surprising. Like every game I watch of him, I'm like, yeah, nice. And then I look at the stats and I'm like, huh, because he does so much in the court while he's out there that you go watch the stats and you're like, in my head it's were like 3 times these. And he's the only player like that I'm watching right now
Yeah.
in the NBA. Like he makes like 3 shots a game. He makes 2 blocks, 1 steal, but you remember them all. And he's so energetic out there. Great defense, great offense. He's not stagnating any aspect of our basketball game plan, and he brings out the hustle. That's what we need consistently because we've been lacking a little bit of hustle in the latest years, and man, this year brings it to a ton. And his level of production, I've never seen a Nasir bad game, so that goes a testament to what he really is. And yeah, I was excited at the start of the season. I'm even more excited now because I can see he can be very soon, or maybe even already now. But he's starting quality in a very good team.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and I was
For
just
sure.
going to say, Mike, the reason you probably remember all their buckets, I think Casey Holdaw tweeted this last night, where I think he said something like 25% of Nazir's shots are dunks.
Yeah.
And I think that just illustrates how unusual that is as a Blazer fan to get somebody, who's not a center. Even when we do get a center who actually dunks, we were, I think, the bottom, at least I think bottom five in dunks as a team throughout, Dame's tenure. We've never
Yep.
really had a lot of high flyers, and just getting a player who actually whether those are putbacks or even fast break. I mean, God, we're getting fast break Nas. I mean, last night he had that and one
Whoa.
I think against Baines where it wasn't like that moment where you're kind of going like, oh no, no, no. It's now like, yeah, Nas is going to get this, or Nas is
Yeah.
going to get to the free throw line, and Mike kind of alluded to he's kind of our again. This is it's probably hyperbole in terms of like an outrageous comparison, but he's really the Blazers' Draymond Green in terms
Yep.
of you look at the box, the stats. You're going, well, Draymond kind of sucks. He's always shoots. He's only 6 points, gets a tech. Yeah, he gets the rebounds and assists, but box score watchers look at Draymond Green, be like, oh, he's not even that good. But when you look at games, like, oh my God, Draymond Green's kind of indispensable for what he does for the Warriors and what he does for Steph and everything like that. He's kind of our Draymond Green in terms of he brings the energy, he brings the hustle. I mean, I think there was a point during that Charlotte game where he blocked 3 straight jumpers, turnaround jumpers from Ish Smith, and I think it was one of the Martin brothers, where he just looks like he gets it, and that's very exciting. The offense will come eventually, but I think the only bad game I can ever recall from really forcing it was a preseason game where he is right when we're all hyping him up, and he got playing time. I think he went like 2 for 13, and it's like, oh my God, Nas is that isn't the Nas we're looking for. But since then he's same with Norm. He's the most consistent player on our team right now.
You guys are spot on. He does all the little things that people who just look at the box scores never will notice, never will realize. He makes the necessary plays, the dirty plays that we need. And like you said, it's like kind of like Draymond Green. You look at the stats, you say, okay, he had an okay game, but he impacts the game so much more than just the rebounds and the steals and the blocks and the points. There's so many other little things he does that uh, you can't even it doesn't show up on the stats, and it's those types of players that the Rip City fans love having on our team. So I'm super super high on Little, and I kind of hope if there's some kind of trade that goes down, he's not included, because I think he's a very good piece for us. But obviously I got no control over that, so
Yeah, that's like, oh, sorry. Like that's kind of the scary thing with Nas too. Is these CJ deals aren't probably even that's probably even the prized possession for these teams who are probably looking for CJ. It's that added player, one of our young guys, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
Simons, God forbid, whether that's Little. Teams are looking at Portland and be like, yeah, we'll probably have to, absorb the CJ contract, but it's going to be that sweetener that's really going to make that possible because I alluded to earlier, like CJ is still getting paid 30 million and then 30 million plus over the next 3 years. Um, it's like you said, you look at the landscape, even the teams of, whether that's OKC, Orlando, the Pistons. I know our Discord channel loves Grant, the idea of trading Grant.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very, very tough sell out there. Even the Pacer packages of whether getting Turner over here in exchange for CJ, it's like there's not a whole lot of incentive for teams to carry 3 years of CJ for $30 million. If it was like a 1 year or even 2 year, it's kind of workable because you kind of be like, okay, like at least we'll trade them. We still be out of our cap space, in a year or two. But that 3 year, that one last year, it's kind of like it's tough. It's a really tough sell. So we'll see what Joe does as the interim GM. I don't think we're at that point yet in terms of we'll see what it looks like when he comes back. But yeah.
Let me ask you guys this: when CJ comes back, are you guys for the idea of having either him or Norm come off the bench?
Yes, but in reality, I don't think it happens. Norm is playing too well for Chauncey to just bench him. I can kind of see the scenario where if CJ is really struggling with his conditioning, starting off at the bench and being, hope maybe that be that spark plug that transition to the Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford type of
Yeah.
bench player where he plays more minutes than the starters, but he starts on the bench.
Yeah.
But as far as the politics involved with CJ, that just ruins his trade value if he comes off the bench.
That is true.
And then if you do that to Norm, you piss off Norm, and maybe Norm doesn't play as hard as usually Norm does. So as far as NBA 2K fantasy land, if we're just looking at the production in the court, yeah, CJ coming off the bench would be great. I mean, that's a great lift for the bench. But as far as the actual, the logistics of what that can do to team chemistry, what that can do to CJ himself, what that can do for his trade value, I don't see that happening. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, maybe CJ can come off the bench and compete with Melo for Sixth Man of the Year.
It's
It'll be a
not a
close call.
podcast with Mike without a Mellow reference.
There it is.
Did y'all see that three he hit on Vucevic?
Yeah. We've been
He did
seeing
a
that for 2 years.
360 dance and then a fake step back, then a real step back. Damn, that's what's called. Yeah,
Guess what? They still lost.
CJ off the bench. I won't talk bad about Lakers losses. You won't find that on the internet. CJ off the bench. Yeah. As you mentioned, well, it it would sound fun on paper. It would feel like, oh, we're so OP. We have CJ McCollum off the bench. Look at us. It will also look like having a borderline all-star on the bench, and he'll be unhappy, and
Yeah.
his trade value will tank. Like at what point he becomes like random player like Buddy Hield, for example,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
who got
great
who got
comparison.
who got the shortage of the role in a worse team, and his value tanked to the lowest when he was considered at a time the same level as CJ, and now he's like a role player. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we don't know what that can do to his morale. So personally, I wouldn't do that. I would find a place for him. It's better for both parties, and yeah, let's not ruin any player's morale because we still care about CJ. He's done a lot for us, and we want to get the best value out of him too.
And you know what, Alex? I mean, it's kind of gone under the radar. I think Larry Nance has done actually pretty good with the exchange of Rocco going to the bench. I can foresee Chauncey, still experimenting with the, three guard plus Nance and Nurk lineups. And not to say Rocco has looking better as of
Yes.
late, especially the last two games here. And
Yep.
Nance, kind of that same thing with Nazir earlier. Lance doesn't, put up the 15 and 10 every night that you kind of expect the starting power forward to do. But it's just the intangibles. Like you can kind of see on the court, Nance cares on defense. He's a little bit more attentive than what Robert brought when he was a starter, who's benching. And it's just the kind of those intangibles, especially with Cody being out. I don't even know how long Cody's going to be out for. Might be
Yeah, I haven't heard
the entire
anything.
year. And that was an injury that kind of, I don't even think Woj even reported that injury.
It was
Which is
silent.
yeah, very silent. Like I remember getting that tweet in the middle of the night. The Blazers like, oh, like Cody has a fracture in his kneecap. I'm going, oh, okay. It's just it sounded like a day to day, like, oh, you just have a fractured kneecap. You'll be back next week. It's like, no, like Nance is our backup almost point forward on those specific bench roles. So like I said, I don't foresee any benching either from Norm or CJ when they do come back. We might get CJ off the bench when he first comes back from coming back from a collapsed lung. But outside of that, and again, all these problems probably go away because Lillard's playing really well right now.
Yeah.
And that might be it. If you told me at the beginning at the beginning of the season, like Lillard would be averaging like 20 points a game, CJ would have a collapsed lung. We bench Robert Covington. Nurk is really bipolar in terms of his box score and impact of the game. I would probably guess we would probably be where we're at right now.
Yep.
Actually, probably a lot worse. And that just says a lot and what we're actually capable of. So, yeah, Alex, what do you think?
I mean, you guys are spot on. I don't see CJ going to the bench. I don't see Norm going to the bench. I think it's a unfortunate issue, but also I'm sure there are many teams that wish they had the three guards that we have. So um, CJ, like you said, maybe he comes off the bench the first game or two just because of conditioning and testing out his lung. But I wouldn't be surprised if he even did that. So um, there's lots of, like you said, if you told us all the issues that we've been having right now, I honestly would probably say it would be even lower than they are right now. So we have a good team. We just have to play like a good team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, like I said, I was just agreeing what you were saying. It really comes down to Dame at the end of the day. If Dame is, putting in his usual numbers of last year, these 43-point nights, these 32 gutty wins on the road, it wouldn't surprise me if the CJ slander goes down a lot because we're just winning now because Dame is
Mm-hmm.
playing to his usual par. Even come to this season, like if you look at the stat sheet, like CJ is doing his usual CJ things. It's just when Lillard's not playing really, really like the normal Lillard self. It's like, okay, we can't blame Lillard because he's injured, but Lillard was a lot of the reasons of our struggles the first quarter of the season here is because he
Exactly.
was just really forcing it and be like, okay, like Lillard's clearly not injured. Who's stepping up? And that step up moment never really came from either from our second supposedly best player on our team from CJ. So yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. So let's move on to the last thing we kind of want to talk about. You had brought up, and this is a great point, the issue issues that dealing with, actually the issues the whole world is dealing with COVID. It seems like there's a big COVID outbreak going right now through the NBA, with a lot of teams having to put players on their, the suspended protocol for COVID. Go down before we started. Go ahead and just kind of explain what you were telling us earlier.
Yeah, so looking at our schedule for the next, at least till the end of December here, we're very fortunate. Again, a huge knock on wood that we're very fortunate enough that we have not been hit with COVID yet. I expect us to get hit with COVID at some point from one of our starters, whether that's, even losing Nurkic for 10 days is a huge blow to our team. But that's the world we're living in right now, and teams dealing with COVID is just the reality. So our next couple of games here, starting with New Orleans, they were not hit with the COVID procedures. The Philly game that got suspended from them last game on Saturday for them. So we played New Orleans, which obviously with no Zion, that's a very winnable game. Prior to the Zion news of his latest setbacks, I think that Portland game on Tuesday tomorrow would have been his first game of the season, if not for his setbacks. But looking past that, we're going to be playing against the Brooklyn Nets, and they're the poster child of COVID issues with no KD, no Harden. Kyrie was supposed to come back, but that was stopped within 30 minutes of that announcement with his COVID outbreak happening as well. And that team is really just, bones. And it's the Patty Mills show, which I'm actually so terrified of Patty Mills till this day. Even LaMarcus Aldridge, I don't think we'll get a LaMarcus reunion coming up against Brooklyn either. And then following that, we have Dallas, which they're missing, Maxi Kleba and Reggie Bullock. Bullock really struggling a lot this season for the Mavs, so I don't really anticipate that being a huge blow for them. It's still shooting at the end of the shooting threat and spacing that he provides. But even Luka Doncic is really struggling with ankle issues and just general health issues, where that's looking like a really winnable game. And then following that, within this, 10-day COVID windows, we have a game against the Lakers at the end of the year, which might be the tail end of some of these teams' COVID issues. I think Dwight Howard is, and the Reeves kid, their rookie, is also out with COVID. They might be coming back, but again, no AD for the Lakers. So, outside that Utah game, in between Dallas and Lakers, we're getting very fortunate, COVID injury breaks that we can really take advantage of. Teams on paper that we are probably not favored, whether that's Brooklyn, Dallas, Utah, LA. Probably the start of the season, we're probably like, probably not even close. If we went 500 against those teams, that's a really good win for us. But now we're looking at, possibly a nice little streak here. It's just the Blazers just going to have to work harder than the players are going to get opportunities on the COVID protocol. That's the end of the game here.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to not have these COVID issues, and knock on wood that we don't have to experience any of these COVID issues. But like you said, these games where at first they were going to either be tough games to win, or potentially us not even being the underdog in those games. These are now very winnable games that I think, as a team, morale-wise, they need these wins. If you lose to these teams that don't have their, all-star players with our players still playing. So, Mike, how do you feel about the COVID issues going on right now and the outlook going forward?
The COVID issues suck, man. We've been through this before. Like, it's not even like just like a deja vu right now, because it's exactly the same. Some cases here, some cases there, and then all of a sudden, it's out of control. When it comes to our schedule, I'm gonna go for a bold prediction because I've missed like literally every one of my predictions. Uh, and for the rest of the year, I'm gonna go 0 for 5. Um, for two reasons. First, I think we'll fall a little bit on production. Uh, I I feel like we've been too good from three, and I feel like that'll stop a little bit, and the teams we're playing are not going to really cut that down. But and we've got uh, although I'm predicting over 5, I still would like a couple of wins here because it will give a huge momentum boost. Especially the Lakers, they are an easy team to beat. Melo is playing like 20 minutes, so we're good if Frank Vogel still plays him under 20 minutes. Um, and yeah, at Lakers, home versus Nets. I feel like those two games can really give our team like the quote unquote mainstream attention we need. Get the Portland name back up there. Uh, but yeah, it's confusing 5 stretch of games to end the year because it's really the teams are all beatable, but those are the teams we struggle the most. So
That's a good
we'll
point.
see.
That's a good point. And I just want to put my hat in for the Trailblazer organization. Since we're getting a bunch of G League players signed to rosters, if you guys need a player, I'm here for you guys.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go in.
if y'all got COVID, I can do a 10-day contract.
I'll do it for free.
I
You don't even got to pay me.
I shoot better from free than Blevins. I guarantee that.
I
But
think
are you
most
Dave's
people do.
cousin?
That's the problem there. There's the problem.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'd like to refer a little bit to the second star of Portland that we have not mentioned yet. First name
Okay.
Man, second name Macklemore.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
which I've mentioned before as being one of my favorite role players. Him and Dennis. And a fun stat about Ben McElmore. Last 4 games, he has 28 points. It was all in the same game. It it was an incredibly fun game, and he couldn't miss from 8 threes. That's the season record right now for a Blazer. So yeah, he hasn't really he hasn't scored a point since, but I feel like these kind of games can like show everyone around the rotation like there's no excuses. You can be out there 10 minutes, you can make the difference. You can
Yep.
be out 20 and score 28. You can shoot 10 threes, you're gonna make 8 of them. So yeah, don't hold back on any opportunities. This is a message to our role players. Come on, ball out for us. We need some depth. My God, we need some depth.
Yeah, Macklemore, I think he had 20 points in the third quarter. So, I mean, that's not something you expect from him. So I'm glad that we got it. And I've said for the last since we started playing him more, I like the energy he brings and what he brings for our team. So I am 100% down to keep playing him. I think he brings a lot of stuff to us that helps us.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
to kind of piggyback on that, you know, he reminds me again. I This is going to sound like a Debbie Downer on the Macklemore campaign for MVP for the Blazers. That was certainly a very fun game that he had against the Hornets. But it's all too familiar with me with the Nick Stauskas year that we
Oh yeah.
had, where I believe Nick Stauskas had 5 or 6 threes against opening night against the Lakers, and there was this like idea of, oh my God, we have the we have the best role player on the bench in the entire league, and he's on a minimum. Oh my God, this is going to be awesome. And then I think Terry like played him for 5 more games, and it's kind of what Mike was alluding to. It's like, yeah, Ben McElmore is averaging, his last 5 games, he scored 28 points. That's good production. And you realize, oh, he scored he scored 28 points in one game in the last
And
five
one game.
games.
Yeah.
And so, as fun as McElmore has been, it's really going to be a game by game basis. for what the impact he's going to bring. He's definitely a lot. He's a lot better than Nick Stauskas in the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
But it's kind of the tale of the NBA. I'm sure the Hornets are kind of going like, man, if Ben McLemore didn't have that game, that's a very winnable game for us. Outside of Dame pouring on 43 on us, not a lot of players really played, exceptionally well. It was really that Ben McLemore made the difference in that game for us. And, coming against the Hornets, or not the Hornets, the Pelicans tomorrow, Nickeil Alexander Walker is their McLemore per se, where he can either shoot you into a game or really shoot you out. So, like I said, really excited for the Ben fans to kind of be salivating for the opportunity. Hopefully it continues to stabilize moving forward.
Yeah, well, to add on to what you just said about McLemore, essentially he Frank Kaminsky them, because when we played them, because I believe Kaminsky's still on the Hornets, right?
No, he's on the Suns now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It was the Suns week.
But you're not wrong. That was that, and even I think you're probably not even wrong. I think Frank Kaminsky did had a game against us when he was on the Hornets a couple years ago, where you're going like, really? Frank Kaminsky just beat us, and he hasn't played in 12 games, and he's playing now, and kind of what he did against us for the Suns. But
yeah,
I'll let you finish your point. But yeah.
Essentially, it's just they're all NBA players. They at any point, any one of them, even Kelvin Blevins, geez, I can't even say his name right. Even he, although I highly doubt it, could have a big game. But yeah, at any point, any player could come in and make an impact and shoot lights out. I mean, we've seen it before against us, unfortunately, way too many times. So we just got to keep winning games. That's all it comes down to. Win games on the road and at home.
I think to kind of cap off the episode here, as it is Christmas coming up, what's look back on this season thus far? What are you thankful for what the Blazers has done for you this season so far?
I mean, I think everyone knows the answer to this. Getting rid of Neil O'Shea. That was the Christmas gift that keeps on giving. Every day I wake up knowing he is no longer not doing anything for us.
Mike, do you have a follow-up for that?
Yeah, my Christmas gift was Larry Nance.
Ooh, okay.
One of my favorite players, like in the league, like for the last few years. I didn't really talk about him before because I thought he would flop here, but now that he's playing good, I can talk good about him. And yeah, he has been great help on defense, some crazy blocks, crazy presence. I feel like he's on every player at the same time. It's crazy. So yeah, love what Larry Nance is doing. Love that he's starting. So yeah, that's my
What
gift.
about you, Pierce? What you got?
I'm going to take the optimistic route as Mike. I'm not going to talk about the transgressions of what Neil O'Shea has done for this organization. But, kind of the theme of this episode, I'm just so thankful for this year. I don't think it can be talked about enough just how much, without them, we're probably looking at the lottery in purgatory for this season. It might even be a lost season without them. So, as tough as it has been for Blazers fans this season thus far with, the constant Lillard, what Philly is doing to kind of organize the media to get him out of here, and Lillard having to double down every single week of his loyalty to the city can't be stated enough. And then obviously with the injury bugs that we've been having, whether that's CJ or, even Zeller being out. It's been a tough couple weeks for the Blazers fans, but I think just what those two have bring to the table. A lot of people thought that Norm contract was a little bit iffy, but he's really shown on the court and even on the stat sheet. I think he's one of the few players in the league that's shooting almost 50, almost 45 from three, and playing with a hell of a lot of energy. So, and then obviously with the presence and upcoming with Nazir, can't be stated how exciting he brings, actually making these games watchable for a lot of times. So, amen to that. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, and honestly, if I'm being truthful, for me, it's just Dame's willingness and loyalty to stay with us. I think all of us can appreciate that players aren't built like this anymore. There's not many players that do what Dame has done and stayed with one franchise. And even dealing with all the stuff this year, it's still, coming out and saying, no, I'm committed here. It's without a doubt, for me, that's what I'm most thankful for, having a player like that. And I'm looking forward to, the rest of the year, and hopefully we can have a little surge here at the end of the halfway mark, which I guess we're not really close to, but get a surge going there.
Yeah.
With that being said, I want to thank Pierce for joining us tonight. I know it was on short notice, so I appreciate you jumping in for Fawad. Mike, it was good talking with you as always. It's been a while since we've got you on here, but I'm glad you made it. I also just want to give a shout out and say Merry Christmas to everybody that's listening. I don't know if we'll do a podcast next Monday, since it's going to be the Monday after Christmas. I'll kind of keep everybody in the loop, but either way, if you don't hear from us, I just wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I hope everybody has a good night. And Pierce, once again, thanks for coming. I appreciate you.
Not a problem. Like I said, these are always fun, and hopefully the next time I'm on, we'll be way above 500 and way more optimistic about where our current standings are. So, good to be talking with you all about the Blazers, and hopefully be on again.
I mean, I sure hope that the next time we're talking, we're above 500 because we all need it. Mike, it's good talking to you too, man. All right.
Yeah, let's go. 500.
All right. Everybody have a good night. And as always, Rip City, baby.